So we'll kick off the recording now. And as you would know, having watched no doubt some of the 7-Day Business Fuel Challenge sessions already, my name is Rebecca Newman. I'm the founder and CEO of the Grow Project. We are a business training and coaching program specifically designed for women who want to know how to grow businesses and babies at the same time. This is something I've been doing one-on-one for about 5 years. And in the last 2 years, I've looked at how we could be working with more women when I actually discovered there was many women who wanted to understand how they could maintain momentum, especially in their business, through the challenges of pregnancy, childbirth, and beyond. My background is originally in the project management space, and those were the skills, particularly the project management side of building businesses, and using those principles in looking at the end game, looking at the vision of where you wanted to move to, plotting out the plan of how what the roadmap was going to look like to get there, attributing to that the resources, and seeing what needed to be done, and then bringing the team together and getting everybody to work towards that one vision and achieving it in a way which was done generally under high pressure for an amazing outcome. So part of the methodology in doing that was to create high performance environments. So those high performance environments are platforms, putting things in place which allow you to perform under pressure. And there's various elements to those. There's the communication side, there's the team structure side, there's the leadership side, there's the functionality side, there's understanding what your role is, what your contribution is, what the deadlines are, and all of those foundations which go into creating an amazing project. I worked on those both on various events like the Sydney Olympics and also with the Australian Institute of Sport in their business operations team. And then I also worked in the infrastructure construction side of things, working on multi-million and billion-dollar projects for people like Macquarie Bank. And they were amazing environments to work in, and working with big teams of people. And at the same time that I was doing the coaching side, I guess, in the infrastructure side, I was also moonlighting in Newman Constructions, a residential building business that I co-founded with my husband. And then a little baby popped along. And so essentially, in the last 6 years, I have we have grown Newman Constructions from zero to be nearly a $6 million turnover business with multi-award-winning segments for houses that we have built and team members that we have trained. I have written a book. I have started a second business, and I have also had 2 babies. So what I did was that created a series of conversations. Now I'm getting questions. That created a series of conversations for me. And many of those conversations were around, okay, Beck, well, how do you do all that? You used to work 100 hours a week and we barely saw you. And now you work 100 days a year and you are happier, you are healthier, you look healthier, you exercise more, you play more with your kids, your children sleep. They eat all these amazing things that are incredibly healthy that I could never get to do. And I just used to share my story one by one and hoping that it would inspire and provide some insight. And then I actually discovered when I had the 2 businesses and then had the second baby, I was sitting on a park bench one day, and I met these beautiful grandparents, and it was not long after my second. She was just 6 weeks old, and I was sitting on the park bench, and the grandparents came in. They had children the exact same age as mine. And it was, and I think I might have shared this story during the week, but it was one of the real impetuses to start the Grow Project. And they were giving the parents of these babies a proactive weekend off. And I thought that was really interesting. And they went on to explain that their son was a successful builder. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's very close to home. And their daughter-in-law was an incredibly successful marketing executive. And that while she was incredibly successful in the business world, In fact, she really struggled when her first baby came along, and in fact, so much that she ended out away from her baby and in a mental health facility. And it was at that moment that I realised that it was actually Australia's smartest women who were struggling the most. The women that actually had all the tools, the women that were amazing in business, the women that could evaluate risks as part of their jobs, the women that had high responsibility, they had high performance expectations of themselves. They were generally quite fit when they were young, and they had an appreciation for health. And some of those things had just slipped away as they had grown their business or they had grown their role in their organisation to be a real linchpin. And so what I found was that these women who were growing either their own business or other people's businesses faced three main challenges. The first was that they actually lacked the insight, strategy, and resources to understand how they could build a business, grow a business and a baby at the same time. The second was that they were barely taking any holidays, let alone thinking about how they might be able to step out of the business or step out of their career. And so when the time came to actually have a baby, they really couldn't understand how a baby was possibly going to fit in, even from a time perspective. And the third thing, which led me to be working with some amazing professionals in the health space, was really that when it came time to actually make the baby, their health just wasn't up to scratch. And they found that they either had difficulties falling pregnant or during pregnancy, which really affected them and which also created implications for them in the birth and then also in the time after when they were first getting to know their baby and first entering motherhood. So what I did was I went out and spoke to quite a few people and realized there was quite a few people of a generation above me who actually had shut a lot of businesses when they had babies, which was part of the reason I think that there is this conversation where women who are business owners or are in senior roles, and people will say, oh, you can't do both. And having had all those conversations, I kind of went, well, why not? There's multiple ways to think about this. And I knew there was at least one way because I was doing it. And what I'd realized in my time of working with women and working from a one-on-one point of view and being able to give people a different perspective. And I'm agnostic as to the way you want to build your business, the way you want to divide up your time, how much you want to work, how much you don't want to work. They're all your choices. I guess I see my role here is to provide a perspective, provide a different lens so that you can think about if there is another way, if there's something that doesn't work for you. And I guess that takes me back to my first client. And she was actually a supplier to our construction business. And she had been trying to make a baby for a long time. And when she got pregnant, a lot of her friends were still trying. And so there was an very interesting group of feelings there as to how she felt about sharing her excitement. And at the same time, she really loved her business. She'd invested a lot in her business, a lot of her energy. She loved her clients. She loved what she did, and it was really important to her. And it was actually just through the course of going for a walk, the two of us, for an hour. One of my favorite ways to have a meeting is to go for a walk. And it was during that walk I was able to ask her a couple of really simple questions. The first was, okay, everybody says that you need to close your business. Do you want to do that? And she's like, no. I'm like, okay, well, what do you want to do? And she was able to tell me a bit about what she wanted to do. I was like, okay, right. Okay, well, fantastic. And what sort of support do you have in place? And she's like, well, actually, my mum wants to be really involved, but she's not really sure and I don't know what to tell her. And it's like, okay, no worries. And what else? Who else? And she's like, oh, well, actually, my husband wants to spread his paternity leave out. And it's like, okay, fantastic. All right, well, let me talk to you about the day in the life of a baby and when good times to work generally are and why that is, and talking about how sleep affects all of those things and food affects all of those things and how breastfeeding affects all of those things, how the birthing experience and all those things that I'd learnt and zapped up information on. And from there, after an hour, she had a bit of a mud map, basically, from just having a conversation and making some choices about how she wanted to proceed. And from there, she then went and I connected her with at that time with a business coach, and who was going to help her map out her plan exactly and make sure she had the financial side of things. I supported her in finding some resources to break up the different tasks, to attribute the different tasks in her business to different people, and help her on the management system side. So that she still was able to do the parts of the job that she wanted to do and that were really valuable to her, the business and the client, and that the other pieces of work, for now, she would steer clear of those. So those things coming together, I then had those experiences. At this stage, I still had a growing business. I still felt amazing. I was spending time myself. I still do have time to myself. And as I went and spoke to more and more people, I spoke to people in private partnerships, in law firms, in accounting firms. I talked to pre-partnership women about the problems they're facing. I talked to daughters in family businesses who don't want to step up because they don't know how to run the business as well as having a baby. More recently, I have spoken to men who actually own and run businesses where there are women who are in significant roles who, if they left and those plans aren't put in place for those amazing women in those businesses would really struggle. And then, of course, there's the business owner who is often started out their business with a dream, a vision. They started off, they built it up. Generally, they started from a technical skill, often in the services industry rather than in the product. And over time, they're doing all of the service delivery. They're doing all of the back of house. They're not quite sure how to delegate everything out, and they're not necessarily looking at what assets are in the business, so what they will be able to leverage, which is the purpose of having assets in a business. So these were the kind of women that I was finding with these kind of problems around understanding, having that insight, knowing they can take a break from their holiday, break to have a baby or a holiday, and then also their health being up to scratch. And so I created the Grow Project, and I brought together industry-leading partners in the areas of business, health, and mindset. And that's where we're at today. In May, we will have our Grow Lab experience, which allows you to come and hear a bit more about the methodologies. But the reason that, and provide, I guess, that perspective as to how you can build businesses and babies at the same time, and understanding what the challenges are, understanding what the entrepreneurial road can look like, and why that is. And for Sherlaws, the reason I picked Sherlaws was that we've had in Newman Constructions multiple business coaches, which is very interesting for someone like me in particular who is very business minded. Intrapreneurially, as I call it, I have built businesses within businesses multiple times and to multi-million-dollar values. So to then be coached is a wonderful experience and also a challenging experience. And I know Kim Morrison mentioned in her call about the ability to be coachable. That's a really interesting concept. So with those other business coaches that I had experience with, what I found was that they were great about sharing the particular niche that they knew about. And to some respect, I now liken them a bit more to a business counselor because they're actually able to listen very clearly. And they were great at that, to what was going on with me, and then share their experiences as to how we might be able to grow. And we had 3 before Sherlaws, and I consider them to be almost like going through stages of school. One was like the kindergarten, the primary school, and the high school. And I feel like with Sherlaws, it's like we're at the tertiary level now. So the first stage in kindergarten was to look at sales and look at marketing and look at the niche, and incredibly valuable, the work that we did, incredibly valuable. And also a bit around setting a big vision. The second piece that we did was really around the financials of the business. So it was looking at how we ran our business from a financial operations point of view as we were growing at that time, and that was the biggest area we wanted to think about. We also looked at sales in terms of sales script and understanding customer experience and that side of things. So from there, we went on to look at a management system, which was with our high school business coach. And that looked at all the different areas of the business and really the functionality of who was doing what was the outcome, and what was the product that we were providing. And all of those things were really fantastic. And then we met SureLaws. And the frameworks within SureLaws are just mind-blowing. And it was just a whole other league and so exciting for me. The more I learned about SureLaws, the more I understood that their methodologies come out of funds management, meaning that people at the big end of town know what SureLaws does because that's what they do. So there was a series of founding partners of SureLaws, of which Darren SureLaw was one. He is one of Australia's most successful fund managers. He created an amazing fund when focusing on what the 2% of the best performing companies in Australia were doing. It was with AMP back in the early 90s that he was doing that. And he's a very talented mathematician with an appreciation for not only the numbers and the cycles and how everything fits together, but also the numbers with the culture. So how the people fit in. And he, along with his co-founders, created a series of frameworks, which amazingly can be all drawn on one page. I don't have it with me, but feel free to hit me up. I would happily show it to you if we're ever having a conversation. And these frameworks are just amazing. They look principally at the areas of infrastructure. So those foundations in your business which allow you to grow. We're talking here about what's your capacity, how big can you possibly grow the business, and pairing that up with what do you want the capacity to be. And then when you know what the capacity could be, where do you want to sit? How large do you want it to be, and what will that feel like? The functionalities come up a few times, looking at who's doing what role. And there's a series of other checks in that infrastructure or foundation side that create the platform for you to be able to grow. And when you have that platform, we're able to return a lot of productivity to the business. Most excitedly, I guess, for somebody like me who is innovative at product architecture and also at brand, was the revenue side of things. And looking at the frameworks for product architecture was one of the most exciting things that I had seen. And there's a lot of conversation around out in the market about funnels, and very much looking at the marketability side of a product, but not necessarily looking at the architecture of how all the products fit together, and how to productize services and why one should do that. And so there's a lot of material around the revenue side, understanding brand, understanding all of the elements that sit into creating a revenue chain. We're talking about distribution partners, we're talking about channel partners, we're talking about delivery, we're talking about customer service, we're talking about end-to-end experience from the first touch point until the final touch point, and all the processes that go into creating that. And for those that were listening this morning, the first section, who were listening to the session with Adam, the first side of productivity is red. The middle section of revenue is blue. And then we move into assets. And assets is, for those that love business, I think assets is very, very exciting. Assets is black activity, and it's things that you're investing in to create that you will be able to learn from tomorrow. So then, of course, they had the green side of things, which is culture, and how to create culture as a system. So looking at the performance, and that's the accelerator in the SureLaws model. So you can have amazing productivity, you can have an awesome revenue system, you can be creating assets and unveiling assets and investing in your business, but ultimately the accelerator pedal is culture. So the more I've come to know about the SureLaws frameworks, both as a client and as a partner of theirs on the Grow project, I have been nothing but impressed by the frameworks, the intellectual property that sits inside those, the amazing mathematics and the predictability they're able to bring to the business journey. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but it seems that we're live again, so that's good. Okay, and so from there, I found there was many places I could turn to for health, and a lot of different people that I had experienced amazing outcomes with. And a lot of people would ask me who was the right person. And so when I met Anthea and started experiencing Anthea's methodologies, one thing I was incredibly relieved by, and why Anthea and I developed such a strong relationship, was that quite simply she focuses on the foundations of health and the absence of illness. And so she and I worked together, and I got to understand her methodologies, and I couldn't be happier when she decided to join the Grow Project as our mentor, to really work on the health of the individual and look at how that fuels and hold that space. And whether it's people wanting to work with Anthea or some of the other people that we've discussed on today's challenge. And then the mindset side, because I do believe that anything is possible that the mind focuses on. And I think it's an incredibly powerful and untapped tool. It's something that is used immensely in the sporting industry, and something that can really break through. And if we're able to practice with that muscle, if we're able to master those conversations that are going on in our minds, as Mel mentioned with the Mean Girl, and if we're able to use different tools like Jen mentioned with the neuro-linguistic programming cards, and be able to make better decisions and actually implement faster, I think that will help us both. I know that will help us both in a business world, and also at home. So I guess that's the 9 to 5 and the 5 to 9. So they were the partners that I brought together and created the Grow Project. Having my eclectic background of skills, we then went about designing the program, and creating the Grow Lab experience so that people could come, hear the insights, hear the numbers behind things. Going to wrap up. So essentially that I brought together these partners, developed an amazing program called the Grow Project program, and we showcased that program at our Grow Lab live experience so that you can experience it for yourself. And it really talks about the key areas. It goes a lot more into business than we have today. Today was, and the last 7 days have just been designed to get you thinking about your fuel and to get you actually seeing what fuel you're actually doing, because it's something that really people don't have the energy. And if you have grown anything in your garden before, you know that you need to have great soil, so great foundations that allow that when the time's right to plant the seed, that you then can water it and it has the energy from the environment to grow. And they're some of the premises that we bring into the Grow Project. And that is a bit more about the Grow Lab. You can grab the details of the Grow Lab from our website under our events page, and also other events that we run around the different parts that we look to contribute to the business community, so that people do understand that there is a way that they can grow businesses and babies at the same time. And in fact, I believe that a business which has a baby somewhere on the horizon is actually the greatest opportunity to grow your business, because there will be a time when you will exit from the business. And as a result, it's a great reason to put some infrastructure and systems into your business, which will allow it to grow while you're not there, which will also allow you to return to the elements that you do love. And anyone in a revenue situation, anybody responsible for sales, anybody responsible for those key clients, anybody responsible for revenue has an opportunity to design things in a way, because they are affecting the performance and the oxygen of the business by being involved in revenue, whether they're the business owner, in pre-partnership, a key role, a key leader in a business, or a daughter business. Other than that, if you've just enjoyed understanding what fuels you and looking at the different angles, we've talked with Mel, we've talked with Jen, we talked about resilience as a method, and understanding what resilience is and how you can use that as a tool day to day to fuel you up and to fuel others and create amazing relationships and donut moments. we talked with Jen and Kate and Mike about movement and their stories, which are each different, about what movement does for them. We also got to chat with Mike, which was a nice segue, about the challenges that men face and how that affects the females who are growing businesses and babies at the same time. And that really came about through some conversations I had, which is that it's not just the women's health that it takes to make a baby. It's very much about the man and their identity and their health. And so Mike is someone that I connect a lot of people with when they're the women's partners are actually looking to do something to contribute to the baby making side of things. So that's how we had Mike on the line. I also had Kim today talking amazingly about self-care and the amazing journey that motherhood can be. So that was wonderful. We had Nat talking about traditional Chinese medicine, followed by Lisa talking about yoga and how that tied in with Chinese medicine. The Cosmo hippie herself, Leandra, talked about chiropractics and also the balance of the cosmopolitan hippie lifestyle and how to balance out those elements and be able to wear high heels, lipsticks and be glamorous whilst still looking after your health and the health of your family. And we had the amazing contribution of Annie Kiko talking about music nutrition. And I love that one just because it's really something that I don't think most people are aware of, and it's incredibly powerful and simple. And of course, we had the amazing Anthea Kalouros, who can't join us this evening. It seems that her technology is not playing at all. And she was able to share with us in a few sessions about the key challenges her clients face in the health space, the uppers, the downers, the way that the body works, how it cleanses, how it detoxes, how those things are different, and how we're actually able to work with the body through the seasons and through the environment that we live in. It has been an absolute pleasure to bring all those people to you. And let's see what questions we got. Okay, let's go with the first one of my top 5 fuels. My top 5 fuels, and I'm probably going to have to write them down because I should have done them earlier, of course. My first fuel would be my family. And the reason it's my family is that connection, support and love is the most important thing to me in the entire world. I am very generous person. I enjoy giving. I enjoy conversing a lot. And what my children have really taught me is they've really brought play back into my life. And I absolutely just feel so fortunate. In many ways, I feel that my children saved me from myself. I did work a lot of hours every single week. And, you know, to some extent, I paid for that in the health department, or to a large extent. And so that is something that I've been working on for a very long time. But fuel first would be family. The second fuel would have to be yoga. And yoga and I have had a wonderful, wonderful relationship in the last 5 years. Yoga to me is a lot more than movement, which is partly why I had Lisa on to explain a bit about the smarts behind yoga today. It is a time when I go and have some time for myself. And when yoga, the reason I say we've had an interesting relationship is about 18 months ago, I was speaking to a yoga teacher of a different modality, and I was saying how much I love my yoga. And at that time, I was only doing a few hours and I was struggling a little bit. I wanted to be doing more. And I really enjoy how strong and lean the yoga makes me and how that makes me feel on the outside and how much energy that gives me. And she kind of talked to me a bit about meditation, and I know meditation's been top of the list for quite a few people on the calls. And she said to me, you know, you can get the outcome that you're after from the yoga in 5 minutes with a meditation. You don't need a full hour. And I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. Okay. So I went off and investigated that for a while, and it really stuck strongly in the back of my mind. But what I realized was that by doing the yoga, it meant that I took the time to drive the car, and in the 18 months-ish ago, I moved house. So that requires driving a bit further to my favorite yoga studio, but it's actually part of the journey now, and I've been able to work out how to work it in. And I actually enjoy that time to wind down, get over to the yoga studio, spend an hour by myself, on myself, seeing where I'm at, reflecting, thinking, moving, clearing my mind, and just coming out a different person. And it's why I invest a lot of time in it, and it just gives back to me over and over again. So that would have to be my second. Third would have to be food, nourishing food as medicine and food as fuel. When I was younger, I exercised a lot, and that was always my method of, I guess, keeping fit and feeling healthy. And I used to think it was about an 80-20 ratio. I thought it was about 80% movement and 20%, 80% movement and 20% about what you ate. And what I came to realize when I first started doing anything around food and just simply looking at whole, unprocessed, well-sourced food, and some of the Chinese medicine principles, but essentially just whole, clean, healthy, beautiful food, was that I actually found it was more like 80% food and about 20% movement. And whilst movement is incredibly important to the production of hormones in the body, to the joints, to the movement of energy around the body, and all of those things, I actually found that food and the science supported that the food actually has an absolutely ginormous impact, which led me to look into it further. And as I ate cleaner and cleaner and cleaner and cleaner and had a cleaner lifestyle, what I found was it did get frustrating, and it does get frustrating at times to not be able to source great places to go out to, and those kind of things. But I just found that I am now incredibly aware of when something doesn't work for me, and when it does work for me. And I think that that's what's changed. It's really changed my relationship with food. So food would be my number 3 fuel source. Fourth fuel source would definitely be business. It was something that did drop off for me for a while, particularly after my second baby, when she wasn't the sleeper that the first one was. And there was a period where there was no business. And for me, business is about challenge and the intellectual side. I enjoy growing things, and I'm not necessarily putting plants in that category because although my garden is much better than it has been, the business side of things is just what I love. I believe business can create amazing opportunities. We live in the Western dominant world. And in that Western dominant world, currency and dollars are what create opportunities. And I believe business can do for good. And when business and motherhood are combined, I believe that amazing, amazing things happen for everybody and for life. So business is very important. It stimulates me intellectually. It's always changing. Every situation is different, even when there are commonalities between businesses and how they grow in stages and cycles and all those kind of smarts. So business would be the fourth thing. And what would be the fifth thing? Oh, so many things. I think I would say structure. So structure is actually what provides me flexibility. And it fuels me up because it allows me not to have to worry about things all the time. One of the biggest questions I get asked is literally, how do I do it? And I'm able to show people on a normally fluoro pink bordered Kiki K page of how a regular week looks like and how we fit everything in. How do we fit in our priorities? How do we choose what we're going to spend? If we've got 2 businesses between us, 2 babies, we've got kindergarten, we've got all different things to contend with. So how do we fit in all of those kind of things? And it's really that structure that gives us the base to work from. And when I first had the bubs, it was different types of structures. It was packing a porta cot and packing different things in the boot of the car so that we could have flexibility. So my experience is that structure creates flexibility, and that's why I would say that is my 5th fuel. They are my, I guess, top 5 fuel sources, and I hope that by engaging on the 7-day business fuel challenge, you've been able to think about what fuels you, what fuels your growth. And if you or someone you know is going to grow a business and a baby at the same time, perhaps you're a grandparent, perhaps you have or a parent and you have children who are in the situation, who are putting off having babies, and that's compounding their problems, and their business isn't growing and they're not growing, and then their health isn't so great. So if there is anybody that you think could benefit from understanding how they could fit together the key pieces of the smarts, the mindset, and the fuel, that's what we do at the Grow Project. If there are any other questions, I would love to hear them. Please pop them in the chat box. I'll wait just another little bit of time, and then we will close up the 7-day business challenge. For those of you who have been working on your printable, and if you are new to listening to this replay, you can still download the printable by jumping to our events page, which is at RebeccaNewmanOnline.com.au/events, and you'll find the details to our challenge page. You pop your details in the Count Me inbox and we'll send you the printable. We'll also send you all the freebies that all of our amazing 15 presenters have mentioned over the time. All of the health people, the mindset people, Lindsay, Tim and Adam on the business side, all of the freebies that were mentioned. And thank you, Jess, for popping that in the box. You can also put your details there if you're interested in finding out about the Grow Lab and when the dates and further details are released about that for our amazing May event. And other than that, if it's without further ado, I would say please keep in touch with us on the journey. If you've been filling out your check boxes, I can't wait to see them and to put them in the contest for the amazing prize pack that our contributors have also created. It's worth a good few $100s. I lost count after I kept getting donations from people, which was fantastic. So please send them to hello@thegrowproject.com.au. That's hello@thegrowproject.com.au so that we can look over your scorecards and see who's scored the highest points. That, of course, will win the Blue Ribbon prize pack of the various books, the cards, the tea, the cookbooks, all the different pieces. And, of course, we mention on our prize page that obviously the greatest prize is that you actually have a greater awareness of what's fueling you now and can provide you with an understanding of where you want to be and what you want to feel like. So thank you very much for joining me this evening on the call. Thank you for joining me throughout the week and listening to the various experts. And if we can be in touch, please let me know how we can help. And I will see you on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter under the Grow Project. Thank you very much, and ciao for now. Thank you.